문서를 조금 읽어볼 거고요. 오늘은 생각보다 컨디션이 그렇게 좋지 않고 책이 막 읽혀지지 않기 때문에 빨리 운동을 하러 가고 싶네요. 컨디션을 위해서 운동을 쉬었더니 확실히 내 효율성, 생산성이 좀 떨어지는 것 같고 일단은 네, 오늘 간단하게 루틴하고 운동하고 오늘 하루 마치면 좋을 것 같아요. 일단 빨리 루틴을 마치고 운동하러 가도록 하겠습니다. 독서부터 한번 해볼게요. 원서고요. Individual differences in personality. That's very important. Individual differences in personality. I was just stuck with how all the differences in character traits and individual dispositions show up. Some other adults live more dramatic, engaged, active, and a fulfilling lives than others. How do you observe it accurately and quantitatively? Okay, sensation and adventure seeking, high on the quality of extroversion, low on conscientiousness and emotional stability. Lack of self-control may result in behaviors that increases the probability of exposure to dangerous or traumatic situations and adversely affect health through long-lasting biological consequences of stress. Childhood is a crucial period for laying down patterns of behavior with biological effects that endure into adulthood. If you want to live a long and healthy life, it helps to have had the right upbringing. Childhood personality traits assessed in elementary school predicting a person's lipid levels, blood glucose, and waist size 40 years later. Really? Okay. These three markers in turn predict the risk of cardiovascular disease and diabetes. The same childhood traits even predict the lifespan. People age differently, and a part of that story had to do with interaction of the genetic, environment, and opportunity outlook. Not everyone takes advantage of this capacity, but it is there, like the ability to adjust your diet or your wardrobe, such as generous, interesting, and reliable on the positive side, are stingy, boring, and erratic on the negative side. We often display different traits as the situation changes, and two, we can change our trait. Yes. Character, not circumstance, make the person. Character, not circumstance. What makes that possible to do is individual differences in the way we respond to things. 하시면 돼요? 안 돼요? 자꾸 왜 마이크를 떨어뜨리세요? 응? 재판님. Okay, some children who were felt abandoned by their parents grew up to be well adjusted, the good member of society. Others become ex-murderers, resilient, greedy, and grateful for a small thing in life. And listeners still have food to eat, and personality traits that are unevenly distributed in the population. Your genes don't dictate how you will be. Yeah. Waiting for the right environment trigger to activate them, what is called the gene expression. Your cells are the actors. Gene expression is the way that actors decide to express the script. The actors may bring a certain interpretation to those words based on their experience, and that might surprise even the writers. Okay, these studies then find consistent agreement across a variety of personality traits such as sociable, extroverted, good-natured, responsible, calm, conscientious, and intellectual, just based on what someone looked like. There is far less consistency in judgment for other terms such as agreeable, neurotic, and emotionally stable. Okay, that's less consistency. Oh, less consistency. Okay. 네. 알겠습니다. Okay, I got it. Irene, you should speak in English. Because you read English version of books, right? So you should speak in English. Okay, this book. And press by causes. Like the ultraviolet rate of the sun damage the lens of eye, environmental factors can damage the ear. Noise-inducing hearing loss from prolonged exposure to sudden sounds in the workplace or at rock concerts can damage the hair cells of ear irreversibly. The best preventive is to wear earplug. Oh, when you're going to run around the loud noises. High blood pressure, diabetes, and chemotherapy can also irreparably damage the hair cells. Another possible cause is age-related deterioration in the mitochondrial DNA in different structures of the cochlea in the ear. Oxidative stress is thought to be the major cause of mutations in the mitochondrial DNA that cause the deterioration. You've probably heard of the antioxidants. Oxidative stress occurs when there's a chemical imbalance between antioxidants and chemical free radicals in your body, compromising the body's ability to detoxify. This imbalance can lead to the problem with the lipids, proteins, and DNA can trigger a number of diseases. An antioxidant is a molecule that can donate electrons to the free radical, thereby neutralizing it. Foods that are high in antioxidants, such as blueberries, might be a promising way to forestall or correct this. But it's too early to tell. Evidence for the effectiveness of antioxidant foods is mixed. Still, the Mayo Clinic and other experts recommend make them a regular part of the diet. Why the evidence comes in, not just for fending off hearing loss, but for a range of maladies, including cancer and Alzheimer's. More on that later. Tinnitus는 이명이죠, 이명. Tinnitus tends to appear to occurring in the brain, not in the ear. Oh, okay, not in the ear. It's occurring in the brain. Although it is an experience that is coming from the ear. Okay. Touch. Our sense of touch also declines with age, decreasing the blood flow to the extremities. Hands and feet. Extremities. Can impair the touch receptors there, although others may not be able to feel that a shower just deeply or be able to differentiate between the hot and the cold water. With age, the touch sensors in the pads of the fingers deteriorate, producing a loss of sensitivity, deteriorate. Handwriting degrades and hand speed and vibration sense decline. Yes. Using a standard mobile phone, not mobile. Using a standard mobile phone, with its tiny buttons and touch screen displays, become increasingly unmanageable. We are mostly familiar with disorders of the visual and auditory systems, then other disorders in other senses. Okay, visual and auditory. But taste and smell can also be impacted by aging. Olfactory dysfunctions can show up in three different ways. A reduced sensitivity to smell, called hyposemia, a complete loss in an ability to smell, called anosmia, and an altered precision in which things are smell different than they should and are called phantasmia. Decreased sense of smell is common among all adults. Yes, that's correct. The loss of flavor can result from a normal age-related declines in the sensory receptors themselves, but in many ways, they result from diseases, especially liver disease and cancer, or medications. Okay, let's see. Intelligence. People age at different rates. Within the lifespan, they will have the goal is to try to increase your health span and decrease your disease span. Okay. For most of us, some disease, including loss of mental function, is inevitable, but we can think of how to deal with the negatives, putting systems in place to minimize them, and in fact, they happen on our lives. I take a rather broader view of health span than others. To me, health span is about your health, not just of your body, but of your mind as well. I believe we cannot stretch the health span to enjoy many more years of mental fitness and agility, so that we can still do the things in life we care most about and most intelligence. Intelligence predicts how well we are able to adapt and challenging. It's not a challenging. Focus. Intelligence predicts how well we are able to adapt to changing environments. More intelligence should mean that we are more likely to solve new problems. Okay, I see. The internal clock, a degradation of your circadian rhythms. The word circadian was coined by scientists in the 1950s from the Latin words circa, approximately, and diem, day, a rhythm that operates in a cycle of around 24 hours, predicting when the sun will rise or allows the brain to release and wake-up chemicals such as orexin, dopamine, and norepinephrine, and to suppress its rise in these chemicals such as melatonin, adenosine, and GABA that might make us want to roll over and go back to sleep. The inner clock lets us wake up in the morning refreshed and ready to go. Biological clocks evolved in early evolutionary history when most cells were light sensitive. Activity and synchrony with light-dark cycles. The clocks are wired intelligence. Plants use photosynthesis and intercellular clocks to detect the length of days. Biological clocks that help plants prepare for sunlight by raising their leaves, tilting them toward the sun, and preparing their internal factories to perform photosynthesis, converting sunlight to the nutrients. So much so that when tissue from biological clocks of young animals has been transplanted into older animals, the older animals live longer. In mammals, the circadian rhythms rely on three separate processes. An ecosystem that takes in information from the environment consisting of the cues such as the light-dark cycles and the food consumption that are received via peripheral oscillators. To regulate them, we evolved a master clock. In humans, this is located within the hypothalamus in a structure called a suprachiasmatic nucleus or an ICN. The developmental science approach. Okay. Seeks to understand the interaction between genes, culture, and opportunity. Biological clocks are a fascinating example of this. They function by taking input from the environment, primarily light, but also in the eating schedule and your own activity cycle, which are influenced by the culture. Light, whether it arises from the rising sun and the little blue light on your cell phone charger, can turn particular genes on and off, changing the timing of when they produce enough proteins that influence the biological clock and our circadian rhythms. Their light and lack of it can speed up or slow down the circadian rhythms. Yes. All of this interacts with your own magic process in a variety of ways. There's just one example, light. The blue light in particular is necessary in a program to the biological clock. Cataracts, which accompany aging, are yellow and so they tend to block out the blue light. Consequently, cataracts can restrict the amount of blue light that reaches the retina and in turn diminish the important neural signaling to the pineal gland and SCN. In some cases, cataract surgery has restored sleep quality to older adults by allowing more light in during the day, and it does in restoring a healthy melatonin release schedule. But blue light in near bedtime, such as in the form of from the cell phone, alarm clock, or a computer, can stimulate the pineal gland and make it more difficult to fall asleep. What you eat, how much you exercise, and then how much you sleep are important. But in the past few years, neuroscientists and chronological biologists, people who study biological clocks, and have come to understand that when you eat, when you exercise, and when you sleep, maybe not just as important. This is particularly true of older adults. The gastrointestinal tract has an proper circadian clock of its own and is also a home to billions of microbiota, also called a microbiome. Everyone's microbiome is unique, and the organisms that make it up have their own clocks. Research on the microbiome is still in infancy, but early evidence points to the possibility that what and when you eat can influence the microbiome clock, the circadian rhythms of your microbiota, and the further that your microbiome can send information up to the master clock in your SCN to influence its timing. In addition, the SCN, suprachiasmatic nucleus in the hypothalamus, can regulate the microbiome through triggering production and recycling glucocorticoids, insulin, and other timing and rhythmic altering substances. As you probably know, people differ in terms of the time of the day when they are most fresh and alert. In popular parents, I'm early bird and my wife is night owl. We have a different chronotypes. Different chronotypes and have a genetic basis, but they also interact with environment and experience. Years of staying up late consistently and exposed to blue light beyond the sundown can cause changes in gene expression that share to your chronotype at the genetic level. But this doesn't always happen. A great many shifted workers workers live in a conflict with their inherent chronotype, and this is responsible for accidents, depression, and the loss of productivity. Darker solid line and the teenage experiencing a particular shift in their sleep schedules and for reasons we don't fully understand, but are related to the sudden influx in the pubertal hormones. Those workers who are early birds versus night owls and kept in different shifts, so that their work schedules are aligned with their internal clocks. The aging clock, as we age, the signaling in a pharmacy and degrees. Part of this signal deficit is due to loss or degradation of the nerve systems and myelin sheaths, and a part due to an overall age-related depletion of neurochemicals and hormones. This is partly why older adults can have trouble in getting to sleep. Wake up at 5 in the morning and then wander in dinner at 4:30 in the afternoon. Lose the mass clock. Accounts for changes in sleep, waking, and eating cycles. Some evidence indicates that the problem is in fact with the integrity of the neurons in the SCN itself, transplanting young tissue into the SCN of the hamsters, improving the clock synchrony of the aging hamsters, and increase their lifespan. This suggests that a good circadian rhythm may be related to longevity. We are a long way off from being able to do such a transplant in humans, but the results of these experiments help us understand the vulnerabilities of the aging clock and offer dictations on longevity increasing research. Phase advance as we age, and people are more likely to become morning types as they age. Degradation of vasopressin signaling is responsible for increased fragmentation of the sleep-wake activity cycle and for disruption of the core body temperature rhythms and a more frequent urination, a lead, a poor quality and a quantity, resulting in increase in daytime drowsiness. The functioning of the biological clock is disrupted in an even greater degree in dementia. Post-mortem studies in dementia parents' brains show sharp degradation of the hypothalamus SCN. These effects are more just in eating and sleeping during a time of the day, a function for aloneness and a performance that become sharply emphasized when we age. Adults after age 60 or begin to show performance differences in a range of neuropsychological tests, memory problems, spatial intelligence, reasoning, fine motor coordination, and athletic performance. Test them in the morning and they are normal. Test them in the mid to late afternoon and they show reduced performance. The time point is invaluable. It could be an age of 50, 60, 70, or 80, depending on the interaction of the genes and culture and environment. Disrupting the circadian rhythm speed are clear identifiable. External causes are the early warning signs of Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and Huntington's disease, chronic inflammation, and cancers. Reparative disturbances of the circadian rhythm, particularly from the frequent time shifts and irregular exposure to light, and have now been implicated in a variety of diseases, including metabolic syndrome, immune deficiency, and bone and muscle weaknesses, cardiovascular disease, and cancer, and the lifespan. One of the most well-known functions of the biological clock is to control the release of melatonin to promote sleep. Your body makes less melatonin. When you are young, the biological clock is more flexible, malleable, and it can react to the environment changes quickly. As you get older, resetting the biological clock can take longer, much longer. Phase advances and a shift to waking up earlier and going to bed earlier than usual are more difficult for the adults to recover from. Phase and delay show no difference between an older and younger adults. The cold weather can also cause an overeat. Sleep hygiene. If you're sleep deprived, which refers not just to the amount of sleep you've gotten over the past few days, but also to the quality of the sleep, you will tend to notice in a post-lunch dip more. And you will notice it even more as you age. Sleep hygiene involves in avoiding the bright lights in a people's bed, sleeping in a completely dark room, get blackout curtains if you need it too, and going to bed and waking up at the same time every day. Now that we know about energy circadian rhythms, this makes sense. Your biological clock expects you to go to sleep at a certain point within a 24-hour cycle. It adjusts in your core body temperature, slow digestion, releasing melatonin, reprocessing dopamine, and oversees dozens of other regulations. If you go to sleep earlier or later than usual, these cycles are a little out of sync with the fact that you're sleepy. Sleep quality is impaired. Diet is also important too. Diet is important too. Eating within 2 hours in a bedtime can decouple essential circadian rhythms from those in the liver, stomach, and the intestine. What you eat can also be a factor. Alcohol is known to disturb sleep-cycle and the circadian rhythms, and a high-fat diet tends to advance the clock. A practical implication of this is that if you need to stabilize, eat fatty foods like those featured in virtually every late night TV commercial. Light therapy and melatonin treatments are the most effective means of resetting the circadian clock, especially in the age. They are also effective in people with Alzheimer's related or mild cognitive impairment. It is possible that these treatments may also prevent or delay the onset of Alzheimer's disease itself. Melatonin treatment, cognitive performance improved, and agitated behavior was reduced. You may have heard season-affective disorders, which cause mood and the concentration disturbances, and is triggered by the shorter, greater days of winter. Melatonin levels tend to rise about 40 hours after waking. If you get 8 hours of sleep every night and wake up at 6 a.m., that means your melatonin levels will naturally rise at around 8 p.m. And you will start to get sleepy and go to bed 2 hours after that, around 10 p.m. If it takes about an hour for the melatonin pill to absorb in your bloodstream, that means taking one about 3 hours before bedtime. The next most effective treatment after light therapy and melatonin is moderate late and afternoon and early evening exercise, like going outside for a walk. The combination of all three is the best. Caffeine is one of the most widely consumed mind-altering substances in the world. For many people, it enhances wakefulness, alertness, and focus, and can assist in establishing or in changing circadian rhythms, particularly when crossing time zone. At the beginning of the book, I introduced the concept of health span versus disease span, the amount of time you are able to avoid declining health and live a fully productive and self-sufficient life. There is a parallel concept called the productive span that can apply not just in an arc of your life, but also in an arc of a single day. There are times of the day when you are at your best, and there are times when you are not. The most obvious explanation for this is that there are individual differences among the athletes, and the differences in the demands of various sports. I've touched on the way in which the effectiveness of eating, exercise, and sleep in maintaining optimal health and vigor is dependent on our body's natural rhythms. You can see that they are connected to the circadian rhythms. Their decoupling can cause problems, especially in old age, when our bodies are less resilient. In the next chapters, I will double-click on these 3 key components of our daily lives to reveal more of what we know about optimizing and tweaking them to give us a maximum benefit. Diet, brain food, probiotics, and free radicals. Now my PhD station is kicking in. Writing best-selling books does not make you an authority. And in fact, tomatoes are good for you, especially when cooked. As in shown in solid, peer-reviewed studies in lycopene can contain a decreased risk of prostate and of breast cancer, heart disease, and osteoporosis and other chronic diseases. Now my BSD that is going haywire. Performing surgeries, whether it's 1 or 10,000, doesn't give any scientific data on what people should eat. By the end of the we learned that his understanding of 9 was supplements and he created. Yeah. Every 10 years or so, it seems that scientists are having a completely different view of what we should and shouldn't eat to promote longevity and health. The meatless diet, the no-fat diet, the no-carbohydrate diet, the all-carb diet, the paleo diet. First, fat was the enemy, then sugar, then carbs, which breaks down into sugar. You'd forgive me for thinking that scientists don't know what they are talking about. The problem here has to do with economics and logistics of properly applying the scientific method. The scientific problem is that people who eat different foods may have other differences as well that we are not keeping track of. Different tendencies to exercise or not, sleep duration, attitudes toward medicine, hydration, different daily stresses endured. These according to the core theme of personal psychology and the individual differences in a person's generalization, neuroscience allows. What you really want is to be able to take people who are identical in every lifestyle metric and then tell them exactly what to eat, putting that one variable completely under the experimental's control. We infer that smoking is bad, but it has not been shown in controlled experiments in humans, just rodents and monkeys. Similarly, we infer that saturated fats and sugars are bad, but we don't have controlled experiments that prove it. So the history of dietary research has been hobbled by the lack of controlled experiments and by the very real possibility that there are individual differences in the ways that people metabolize food, nutrients, their glucose metabolism, the activity of lipoprotein lipase, an enzyme that promotes fat storage versus fat oxidation, and the genetic factors on average side A may seem no better than side B, but for some people, there might be big differences. What is clear is that there is no data yet to help clinicians match a patient's food metabolic genotype to the optimally beneficial diet. Food metabolic genotype. The new field of nutrigenomics promise to fill this gap, but these gaps don't mean that we know nothing. The last 15 years of research have moved us close to the goal of understanding how diet affects health, well-being, and longevity. Our digestive systems today are a product of over 10,000 of years in a hominy evolution. Our ancestors in the Paleolithic age, about 50,000 years ago, subsisted by gathering plants and fishing by hunting or scavenging wild animals. As a result, their diet was primarily lean meat, fish, fruits, vegetables, roots, eggs, and nuts. This is so-called the Paleolithic diet or Paleo diet. This diet is based on the fact that we have not able to eat high amounts of sugar, salt, and saturated fats that are inside typical American diet. Those are products of the technology and industrial food production that our bodies and our genetics have not yet caught up to. Although terms such as purify, detoxify, and energize may sound impressive, they are genetically used and cover up a lack of scientific proof. There are only few known toxins, for example lead. and these treatments to do nothing remove them. May also advise consumers to beware of testimonials. Anecdotes from individuals who have used and products are no substitute for evidence-driven scientific research. If the products claim we backed up with hard evidence, the purveyor would say so, pointing to the peer-reviewed and scientific studies. Just remember, the plural of anecdote is not data. In other words, an anecdote is simply an observation or study that comes from uncontrolled conditions. True scientific data comes from a systematic attempt to isolate variables, document conditions, and observe trends in over a large number of cases. The diet group, but not to control group, also quit smoking, exercised more, and attended stress management counseling. The people in a control group were told to do none of those things. As Scientific American reported, it's hardly surprising that quitting smoking, exercising, reducing stress, and dieting, when done together, improves in her health. But the fact that I have with the participants were making all these lifestyle changes means that we cannot make any emphasis on an effect of a diet alone. Antioxidants. When an atom molecule or an ion has an impaired electron, it is unstable and is called a free radical. Free radicals are produced in autotime cells convert glucose to energy, but damage to mitochondria, a sub-unit of the cell found inside most cells of your body, can also lead to increase in the production of free radicals. And cell cannot consume certain substances such as fried foods, alcohol, tobacco, smoke, pesticides, and air pollutants. Free radicals, because they are unstable, can cause damage to the DNA and the cell membranes by grabbing the electrons through a process called oxidation. Soon the whole thing has snowballed out of control. In the meantime, all of these molecules with the free radicals can perform their cellular functions properly, and you get oxidative stress. Antioxidants often work by donating an electron to the free radical before it can damage other cell components. Once the electron of the free radical appeared, the free radical is stabilized and it becomes non-toxic. Oxidative stress is believed to underlie a wide range of diseases, including cancer, diabetes, and neurological disorders such as Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease, and to shorten lifespan. It causes high LDL levels, low density of protein and bad cholesterol, and accumulation of the plaques that can lead to heart disease. It even plays a role in the development of wrinkles. It's been known since the 1960s that free radicals accelerate the aging process, and that reduction of free radicals can delay aging. The big question is whether dietary antioxidants can mitigate the damage done by the oxidation of free radicals. The matter is further confused by the fact that there is no universal agreement among scientists about which molecules are antioxidants and which aren't. Some of the well-known substances that are often mentioned as antioxidants in retinol, vitamin A, beta-carotene, a precursor of retinol, and ascorbic acid, vitamin C, vitamin E, flavonoids, and some omega-3 fatty acids. Sometimes zinc can function as an antioxidant. The definition of antioxidant can vary broad because they can act either directly or indirectly and any substances that can detoxify free radicals and may be justly called antioxidants. Selenium, for example, doesn't act directly but can detoxify certain reactive oxygen species through indirect action. Tocopherol vitamin E, on the other hand, acts directly by donating a hydrogen atom, an issue in part as whether the mere the fact of food or supplement molecule can donate a hydrogen atom to the free radical, Mystic and real, living organisms evolve, and that is working like we think it should. We don't know. We call the discussion of glucosamine supplementation in chapter 7 on pain. Taking cartilage and a pill might seem they should help and encourage breakdowns in your body, but it doesn't work like that. The same principle applies to the substances in the substances in the foods we eat, such as antioxidants and cholesterol. They don't necessarily have the effect that you might think. There are modest research evidence that eating antioxidant foods is beneficial. There is modest research evidence that eating antioxidants in food is beneficial. The problem is that there have not been rigorous studies of antioxidant foods to draw any definitive conclusions. One recent meta-analysis found that there is no randomized control trials. All studies were judged to be moderate to substantial risk bias. There is even less evidence to support taking antioxidant supplements. For example, one study followed nearly 40,000 women in 10 years. Half were randomized and assigned to take a vitamin E supplement, and half took a placebo. After 10 years, the vitamin E had significantly reduced the risk of a heart attack, stroke, or cancer. The results in other randomized and controlled trials with a brain-saving antioxidant supplements, including beta-carotene, vitamins A and C, and selenium, did not show reductions in cancer. For gastrointestinal cancer, certain supplements actually increased all-cause mortality. A meta-analysis reviewed the results of studies with more than 290,000 people and found no effect of antioxidant supplements on cardiovascular disease. Antioxidant supplementation might be interfering with the immune system or within a defense mechanism responsible for the elimination of impaired cells. For some subsets of the population with a really poor diet, or for pregnant women, supplements may be helpful, but the scientific evidence is still wanting. Many supplement studies fail because they study only one supplement at a time, which doesn't mimic anything like an actual food. Cholesterol is a waxy substance that circulates in your blood and attaches to the proteins there. Your body needs cholesterol to build healthy cells, including brain cells, but high levels in certain forms of cholesterol can increase your risk of heart disease. When cholesterol combines with the proteins, the resulting molecule is called erythropoietin. Low-density lipoprotein of the other bad cholesterol transports cholesterol particles throughout your body. It can build up in the walls of your arteries, making them hard and narrow and causing arteriosclerosis. High-density lipoprotein and good cholesterol peaks in excess. Cholesterol takes back to your liver, which then removes it from your body. Unhealthy eating habits and obesity can raise your bad cholesterol levels. Lack of physical activity can lower your good cholesterol levels. Smoking does both, especially in women, by damaging the walls of the blood vessels and making them more likely to accumulate LDL deposits. LDL levels naturally rise with age, making healthy lifestyle habits increasingly important, especially after age 50. There is a genetic component as well, the rate at which bad cholesterol climbs and ability of physical activity to increase good cholesterol are partly inherited. If adopting a healthy lifestyle habits and physical activity improve the diet, doesn't optimize cholesterol levels. There are medications that can lower LDLs that for extreme cases. There is a procedure called lipoprotein apheresis. They use filter machines and remove LDLs from the blood. Food labels in the United States and many other countries list the cholesterol content of the foods, but there is no scientific consensus about the whether eating cholesterol-rich foods actually alters the cholesterol levels in the blood. And many cholesterol-rich foods don't have necessary nutrients. You do need fats in your diet. They are a major source of energy and they are necessary for building the myelin sheets around the neurons and for maintaining strong, healthy cells. But not all fats are created equal. The main types are saturated fats found in meats, eggs, and whole fat dairy products, monounsaturated fats found in olive and canola oil, polyunsaturated fats found in seeds, nuts, and fish and vegetable oils, and the trans fats found in fried foods, micro popcorn, and some commercially baked goods. No association between the consumption of the saturated fats and heart disease. Now, this is not a controlled experiment. It may be that the people in the study who ate saturated fat got more exercise. There may be genetic differences in the way the body's metabolizes saturated fats, but the real culprit in that analysis was the trans fats, the ones that are found in fried foods, potato chips, and other junk food. Diets and high soluble fiber are good because fiber binds out the cholesterol molecule in the digestive system and drags them out of the body before they get into circulation. Some good sources of insoluble fiber are oatmeal, Doritos, Trader Joe's oats, barley, and the other whole grain beans, including soybeans and soy milk. High fiber for fruits and apples, strawberries, and citrus. The patented containing insoluble fiber, eggplant, okra, fatty fish, liquid vegetable oils, and nuts, just 2 ounces of nuts in a can a day and lower added by 5%. Diets high in omega-3 fatty acids found in fatty fish, seeds, especially in chia, flax, and hemp, nuts, especially walnuts, and the olive and canola oils, also lower LDL and reduce the risk of heart disease by 7%. Insoluble fibers in wheat grain, vegetables, and whole grains are also healthy because they prevent the constipation and diverticulitis. The emerging factor is that dietary consumption of fats and even saturated ones is not a cause of heart disease, but rather inflammatory processes that cause cholesterol to build up in arteries for walls. It is an alpha-linoleic polyphenol and omega-3 fatty acids present in nuts. Extra virgin olive oil, vegetables, and olive fish rapidly attenuate inflammation and the coronary thrombosis. Calorie restriction. A caloric restricted diet. When you have eaten excess food and nutrients, and your physiological stress levels are low, your genes support cellular growth and reproduction. In contrast, under harsh conditions, genetic activity shifts towards cell maintenance and protection. A number of stressors mediate this reaction, and the calorie restriction is one of the most robust, working in many species from eastern sea algae from mice and primates. For years, it was thought that calorie restriction merely slows down an organism's metabolism and therefore slows down the rate at which cellular damage accumulates. It is now well accepted that calorie restriction triggers a change in the metabolic response, in particular in the down-regulation of insulin. Slowing insulin might seem like an overwhelming challenge, as the condition is so pervasive. So it is noteworthy that when we extend the lifespans of laboratory animals, we do not have to combat individually all the problems of age, such as declining muscles, the wrinkle, the skin, and the mutant mitochondria. Instead, we just tweak a regulatory gene, and the animal does the rest. In other words, an animals had the latent potential to live much longer than they normally do. In mammals, insulin levels rise in response to the glucose, and this rise may ultimately shorten lifespan. Insulin is necessary for normal metabolism. It helps the glucose in your blood and anti-cells in your muscle. Fat and liver, where it can be used for energy. If your insulin levels rise, hyperinsulinemia and a state that way, a host of health problems can occur, including insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes, obesity, immune system suppression, and cardiac arrhythmias. Calorie restriction because of its interaction with an insulin signaling system appears to be not good for the brain. Why might be that? Neuroscientist Mark Matheson and Johns Hopkins University says if you're hungry and haven't found food, you better find food. You don't want your brain in a shelter if you're hungry. Some of the neurobenefits that are found with fasting also occur with vigorous exercise. The neurochemical changes are similar. Boson stimulate the production of brain-deprived neurotrophic growth factor. Fasting stimulates the production of ketones, an energy source of neurons. Fasting can increase the number of mitochondria in neurons, which helps them produce more energy. Okay. There's also emerging evidence that insulin may play a role in developing Alzheimer's disease. This has led some forward-thinking doctors prescribe the diabetes medication metformin, a blood sugar lowering drug, proactively to patients with a family history or other risk factors for Alzheimer's and dementia. Although the evidence for this is scarce, what evidence there is looks promising. A meta-analysis of 3 studies showed that the cognitive impairment was significantly less prevalent in people who took metformin, and in 6 studies, dementia incidence was significantly reduced. Metformin was further found to have a neuroprotective effect. Now, all of these are in patients with diabetes. We just don't have evidence yet for the effectiveness of using drug as a preventative. There hadn't been enough longitudinal studies yet for us to know whether intermittent fasting or other forms of fasting could have long-lasting negative consequences beyond the initial benefits. When you do eat certain foods and show up in study after study as being healthful, these include important olive oil, which is rich in monounsaturated fatty acids, the good fats. Consuming olive oil around 3 tablespoons a day associated with relieving oxidative stress on cells and regulating cholesterol and anti-inflammatory activity. Cruciferous vegetables including Brussels sprouts and broccoli, cauliflower, kale, cabbage, and bok choy have been shown to have a protective effects against many forms of cancer and can even inhibit the progression of some cancers. They do this by initiating cellular defense mechanisms and modifying cancer-related genes. Another component of a Mediterranean diet is an oil fish, such as the sardines and anchovies. These contain omega-3 fatty acids and they are known to be essential in development and the maintenance of brain and retinal tissues as well as for myelination. Taking omega-3 supplements make little or no difference in the risk of cardiovascular events, coronary heart disease. Okay. Coronary heart deaths and coronary heart events are stroke and heart irregularities. and it may even increase in incidence in some cancers. Supplements are no substitute. Yes, as with all things including diet, don't overdo it. Too much canned fish, raising levels of mercury and other toxins. Okay, the most important thing here. Okay, has been shown to lower blood pressure and thereby reducing coronary risk, but this is a complex issue. Alcohol consumption increases risk in primary tumors and all. Okay, I'm sorry. Alcohol consumption. Alcohol consumption increases risk for primary tumors of the mouth, pharynx, larynx, esophagus, liver, breast, colon, and rectum. It also increases in mortality in breast cancer survivors and possibly those with other cancers as well. It interferes with the sleep and dream cycle, and we saw chapter 8 with the circadian clocks, and it can be addictive. Resveratrol has antioxidant properties and in animals reducing hypertension, heart failure, and ischemic heart disease, and improves insulin sensitivity and reduces glucose levels and high fat diet induced obesity. However, systematic reviews concluded that there is insufficient evidence that resveratrol supplements can prevent disease and extend life in humans. Many cognitive and physical benefits are claimed for a number of diets, including the Dutch and the Mediterranean diets, but there is little to support them. The putative causes of cognitive decline and the Alzheimer's are oxidative stress and inflammation of the inflammation of the neural tissue and vascular problems caused by the buildup and harmful substances in the circulatory system. Healthy diets and low cholesterol and the inflammation are a logical approach. Lack the evidence and the evidence came in counter to logical advice. The problem is that the bodies and the brain are complicated. There are multiple interacting factors, and we are really only at the very beginning of being able to understand all the implications of the even simplest interventions. Protein. Although those absorb protein less effectively, and the recurrent point 54 grams of protein per pound of the body weight per day. It is not pure protein. In fact, it probably has less than half an ounce of protein. Consider the following: 1 cup of non-fat milk equals 0.3 ounces protein. 2 tablespoons of peanut butter equals 0.2 ounces protein. 2 medium eggs equals 0.4 ounces protein. Half a pound of salmon equals 1.7 ounces protein. If you eat everything I've just listed, you still be 0.4 ounces short of your daily requirement. The most effective proteins for adults are the ones that are rich in amino acid leucine: milk, cheese, beef, tuna, chicken, peanuts, soybeans, and eggs. Leucine is one of the 96 amino acids, building blocks and proteins that we need to obtain through our diet, and it is mainly found in animal protein. There are competing goals here. Cheese and beef contain unhealthy saturated fats, and tuna can contain unhealthy levels of mercury, and chicken can contain antibiotics, yet they're effective in a source of protein. A good alternative for some is 98% lean beef that contains less than 2 grams of fat in a 100 gram portion. Lack of protein can cause serious problems with your brain, muscles, and immune system. We need a leucine for protein synthesis and many metabolic functions. This amino acid helps regulate blood sugar levels and the growth and repair muscles and bone tissue and the wound healing. It enters the brain from the blood more rapidly than any other amino acids. But when levels become too high, leucine toxicity can develop and has been associated with degradation of neural circuits, delirium, cognitive impairment, reduction in the serotonin levels, and excess amino levels in the blood, as well as blocking the absorption of the other amino acids. You need the leucine, but not too much, and so the food just listening should be eaten in moderation. Tuna sandwiches and everything at lunch are not the way to go. Vegetable proteins are part of the balanced diet. You may have read reports that soybeans interfere with sex hormones and lower testosterone and that leads to the estrogen problems in menopausal women. Hydration. Aristotle wrote that living beings are most moist. Aristotle wrote that living beings are moist and warm. However, in all ages, dry and cold. It declines in the heat and body water. Dehydration is difficult to diagnose. Hydration is something most of us don't think about, but it's essential for cellular and brain health. Often if you notice yourself feeling fatigue, this is the first sign of dehydration. Other symptoms include headaches and nausea. Dehydration is a medical condition that is not thirst. Thirst is just a symptom that may or may not be present when you are dehydrated. Dehydration is deadly. It is the second leading killers. It is the second leading killer of children under 4 worldwide. Dehydration is deadly. It is the second leading killer of children under 4 worldwide, and the 8th leading cause of death among adults over 70. Okay. It's also linked to the formation of kidney stones. Common causes are too much heat or exercise because you lose salts through your sweat. Higher altitudes and illness. Alcohol is also culprit. It turns off hormones that help us absorb water, so we lose more fluids than normal. Older persons have an increased risk of dehydration, even when water is readily available to them, because thirst detector and the brain degrade. Individuals at greatest risk for dehydration include people with fever or infections, impaired cognitive status, or impaired renal function, and those who take medications that affect the fluid and electrolyte balance. Dehydration results from imbalance of water, salt, electrolytes in the blood. Electrolytes including sodium, chloride, potassium, and magnesium. Rehydrating does not mean simply drinking more water, because when you are dehydrated, the body can retain the water that you drink, and the water alone doesn't replace the depleted salts and electrolytes. Constipation, as Hippocrates noted, it is general the intestines become sluggish with age. Constipation is one of the most common and annoying problems of aging, affecting 50% of all adults. As we age, the intestinal muscles that help moving food along weaken, and contractions are not as strong. Often, medications are taken in older adults cause constipation as a side effect. Many older adults become less physically active, which also increases constipation. It disproportionately affects women, non-whites, people from lower socio-economic status, and those who suffer from depression. Why in the world? And this in a book on the brain, clinical observations suggest that constipation interferes with a condition Only a small number of studies have explored this, and the result, although preliminary, suggests a connection in rats. Constipation led to a change in gene expression that could in turn affect their hemoglobin content and quality. The capacity of the blood to bring oxygen to the neurons in the hippocampus and altering in the cholinergic systems of the brain. In humans, an association between chronic constipation and a cognitive impairment has been identical. Another thing can help and can reduce or eliminate the need for laxative as probiotics. The bacterial balance in the gut can be adversely affected by taking antibiotics, by changes in diet and exercises, by normally process of aging, and by host factors we have not yet identified. Lining the inside of your large intestine is a layer of mucus that forms in a biofilm and provides a moist, warm environment for the microbiome. The thousands of different species of bacteria in there perform special jobs to keep the entire intestinal community healthy. From their decent bacteria regulate a number of aspects of cellular housekeeping and health throughout your body. The particular assortment of bacteria found in your gut is unique to you, as unique as fingerprint. It is shaped by genes, and culture, and opportunity, including what your parents ate, what you eat as an infant and child, and the lifetime influences and different diseases and stressors your body has experienced. The microbiome is important for nutrition, digestion, immune system function. The inside of your stomach and large intestine is a highly acidic environment. The bacteria that live there had typical adaptations to allow them to spread there, but the reward for them isn't great access to food and not a lot of competition for it. The relationship is mutually beneficial to you and them. There is an emerging body of the evidence that gut microbiome is also affects cognition, behavior, and brain health. This is cutting edge stuff, and the stories are still being written. We already know that serotonin is an important neuroregulator of mood, memory, and anxiety. Serotonin. It turns out that 90% of serotonin in the body resides in the gut, and it is manufactured there by bacteria such as Candidus, Streptococcus, Escherichia, and Enterococcus. Gut bacteria have been linked to their mental well-being and depression. People who lack two particular bacteria, Coprococcus and Dialaster, are more likely to be depressed, and those who have a normal levels of them report a higher general quality of life. Coprococcus is associated with dopamine signaling, and it is also produced in butyrate, a fatty acid that is important for anti-inflammatory agent, increased in inflammation and has been linked to depressive symptoms. Butyrate, okay? The gut microbiome can become out of balance, leading to a condition called dysbiosis. The most commonly known cause of dysbiosis is taking prescription antibiotics for the infection. These can kill not just any disease causing bacteria, but also beneficial gut bacteria as well. Dysbiosis can also be brought on an unhealthy lifestyle behavior, such as irregular eating times and high-fat diets. When we are younger, the function is so subtle we don't notice. When we are older, the function is debilitating. Misbalance in microbiome is suspect too involved in obesity and a number of diseases, including cancer and Alzheimer's. Such as infants being separated from their mothers and can have a lifelong effect on their brain's stress response. Early life stressors can also have an influence on the composition of the gut microbiome. That composition is affected by the mother's diet and stress levels and by traveling through the birth canal. Children who are delivered via cesarean section show a reduced diversity of their gut microbiome. In animals, stress caused by the separation of rhesus monkeys from their mothers change in the microbiota and the decrease in the bifidobacterium and lactobacillus levels. The full extent of gut-brain interactions is still unknown, but links between these interactions and an imbalance in the microbiome have been implicated in mental disorders such as diverse as autism, schizophrenia, ADHD, bipolar disorder, and multiple sclerosis. A credible, though still unconfirmed view is that an imbalanced microbiome during infancy and childhood can lead to these conditions and diseases later in life, but that doesn't mean the conditions are irreversible. Probiotics contain foods and supplements and can introduce or reintroduce beneficial bacteria into the gut. These can affect such physical functions as increasing iron absorption, protecting against pesticide absorption, and distribution of the fat around the body. They have been shown to be especially effective treatments for irritable bowel syndrome, a disease that disproportionately afflicts all adults. But where it really gets interesting is that in fact that probiotics can potentially have no cognition, emotion, and behavior. Small-scale trials have shown that a single probiotic, Bifidobacterium infantis, can alleviate depression and anxiety, and a cocktail Lactobacillus helveticus and Bifidobacterium longum can reduce cortisol level. Probiotics have been shown to have a positive effect on mood and brains and emotional centers, and emerging evidence suggests that eating more fiber promotes gut health and microbiome balance. Taken together, cardiovascular disease, stroke, cancer, and diabetes account for approximately 2/3 of all diets in the United States and more than 700 billion in direct and indirect costs each year. If dietary changes can reduce the incidence of these diseases, it will have a truly significant effect on the world health. The professional organizations that represent researchers and clinicians who treat these diseases in the American Heart Association, the American Cancer Society, and the American Diabetes Association published joint statement of dietary recommendations. They concluded simply the higher intake of fresh fruits, vegetables, and whole grains and fish is associated with the reduced incidence of all these diseases. Hunter-gatherers and societies whose lifestyles are similar to those of our ancestors. He found that they generally exhibit excellent health in spite of following a wide range of diets. It doesn't matter if they get 80% of their calories from carbohydrates or from animal fats or from nuts and berries. Almost all eats more fiber than average American. But there is about the only difference. This takes a lot of wind out the paleo diet. Interestingly, they don't shun sugar, consuming in the form of honey. Notably though, they have an access to processed foods and deep fried foods. Okay, consistent with that of the other scientists. Consistent with many other scientists, and I find that there is no one best diet. And that we can very healthy in a wide range of diets. Plunger noted that one reason hunter-gatherers tend not to be in obesity is a lack of a variety in given individual hunter-gatherer's diet. When you have a lot of food choices, we tend to overeat because a variety of flavors is enticing. There is a related movement called intuitive eating, development and registering the dietitian Evelyn Tribble. It has been associated with the reduce in body mass index, reduce cholesterol, lower the blood pressure, and improve the psychological health. Diets don't work because they're based on a restriction. The big idea of intuitive dieting is that your body knows what kinds of food you need, that it has intuitive drive toward protein, carbs, and fats you can trust. Or perhaps isn't it really in a microbes, okay? Or perhaps isn't it really in a microbes in your gut that send a signal to the brain generating an intuitive drive. The four additional principles of intuitive drive are: 1. Try to eat when you're hungry. 2. Try to stop when you're no longer hungry. 3. Learn to cope with emotions in alternative forms other than eating. And 4. Place no restrictions on the types of food, even unless for medical reasons. Now, like me, you may be skeptical about your body knows what foods you need. It's just that it doesn't sound scientific. How do you distinguish intuitive eating from decidedly maladaptive craving, such as wanting to eat a pint of an ice cream every night? First, this kind of binge eating is often spurred by desire for emotional comfort, an attempt to relieve stress and anxiety by eating traditionally forbidden foods, such as those high in fats and sugars. It results in a high level of energy and the regret, not to mention weight gain and a microbiome imbalance, and it feeds a vicious cycle. In contrast, an intuitive eating involves a reframing of eating in a physical rather than emotional or social reasons. Thus, knowing that any food option is on the table, so to speak, makes you less likely to binge eat the forbidden foods. Proponents of intuitive eating, such as Malloy Friend, talk about cultivating a less obsessive, healthy relationship with food and aligning the body to experience it in a healthy variety and moderate amounts of all the foods that are available to us. And all of this should be informed by good sense and the knowledge that although you might consume that once in a while, the chocolate cake and onion rings in a diet is not good long strategies for optimal health. Much of the attention is in a popular press about what we eat is in a so-called superfoods such as blueberries and acai, kale, and sweet potatoes, but this approach ignores what nutrition is called metrics effect, the ways in which food in a real life optimal diets interact with one another. Often you can try to feed a particular problem without creating another one, and that's a central issue in the nutrition journalism. There is often a narrow focusing on only one aspect of nutrition or a health outcome and while ignoring another. The key to dieting seems to be not what you eat, but what you don't. The American diet is too high in the processed foods and sugar, salt, and red meat. Junk food is addictive. It overestimates in the brain's reward system, which evolved in an era when fat and sweet were hard to come by. Apart from that, the fact is, we just don't know enough about nutrition to say that there isn't a single best diet. As a report on the state of nutrition advice at the Stanford University noted, the history of nutrition science is later, whether it remains a hypothesis that were once the next begin. At present, what does it seem to be clear is that large amounts of refined sugar, deep fried foods, and heavily processed foods are unhealthy. Apart from that, eating a variety of different foods in moderation and eating more vegetables than average American currently consumes are all failing to contribute to longevity and health. Reducing the use of tobacco and alcohol is also indicated. Worms affects when insulin, but generally just about any of which traits are inhabitable. Your genes play a daily role in encoding the protein sequences that instruct your body in everything it does to keep you healthy and alive. Anything that can interfere with the gene expression or replication can impact longevity. Cynthia Canyon was able to double the lifespan of the worm C. elegans by manipulating FXO, which in turn activates a number of cellular repair and fortification mechanisms that normally decline with age. It is though the cells have some kind of a clock in them that is winding down and FXO reverses it. Can I explain that in this way? But get this, under conditions of stress, an FXO sends out a signal that starts activating the mechanisms and improve the ability of the cells to protect and repair cell. Adding 2% glucose and bacteria died of the C. elegans and completely reversed this lifespan extension, highlighting the important role of insulin in longevity. Before the egg is fertilized, and there appears to be a massive personal house cleaning in which the egg is sweat clean of the age-damaging, deformed proteins. The high folate limit and telomere. We now know that in many gene mutations and other innovations that increase longevity also postpone age-related diseases. It was accepted wisdom that human cells would continue to duplicate indefinitely. Okay, it was only all these cells that had stopped dividing, while the younger ones continued to divide. It was only the older ones that stopped dividing. He subsequently documented that the limit of human cell division was between 40 to 60 cell divisions or replications. DNA copies itself only in a finite number of times in normal cells, and in cancer cells and most happening methods circumvent this mechanism. Researchers later found that the Hayflick limit is caused by a shortening of telomeres, the dispose of a protective cap at the end of the chromosome. They let the transcription factor the copies in the DNA know that it is time to start transcribing. The transcription factor misses in a few seconds each time there is replication, making the telomere a little shorter each time. Thus, when the telomere gets too short, cell division, and thus cellular repair and renewal stops. When DNA cells stop dividing, you don't die immediately. The human body has around 10 trillion cells in its carrying DNA, although it isn't well established. Long telomere. One leading hypothesis is that when telomeres shorten, the cell stops replicating. They enter a state of senescence and begins to come up the work. Telomere length is mediated by the number of factors. Remember conscientiousness, the propensity of the planful, reliable, and industrious, and to adhere to the social norms and tolerate lead gratifications. Exercise is associated with an increase in telomere length and mitigating the negative effects of stress. A diet and whole food is associated with increasing telomere length, whereas processed foods, especially hot dogs and smoked meats and sweetened beverages, are associated with decreases in telomere length. Not all kinds of stress and short telomeres in a short term. Management stresses are actually good for you because they keep you challenged, and are giving a reservoir of coping skills, strengthening cells, and through the process called hormesis. This describes anything that is a low dose and helpful, but in high dose of toxic. Other examples are hormesis is ultraviolet, so you need some of it stimulating the pineal gland and synthesizing vitamin D, but too much causes skin cancer and cataracts. And vitamin A, you need a small amount of normal development and eye function, but too much leads to anorexia, headaches, and drowsiness, and altered mental states. The kind of stress that shortens telomeres in the long term, chronic stress, in particular long-term caregiving for a family member, a job burnout, and serious traumas such as rape, abuse, domestic violence, and bullying are damage to telomeres. And in general, it takes a long period of stress and before your telomeres are damaged. A month long crisis at work probably isn't enough, but when stress is enduring, defining features of your life, that's when your telomeres will get shorter. Successful aging is important. Moderate and factor in relationship between stress and telomere length is in response to stress. If you develop a good method in coping and you can stay calm and find reasons to be happy, your telomeres may not take a beat at all. Some people approach different events when can do attitude and bring it on mentality. Seeing these events is a challenge and an opportunity to learn. Other people keep too desperate. The physiological response to sudden stress is that your adrenal gland releases cortisol in short bursts, and that is a good thing, and a homeostatic response to increase your energy. Mindfulness and meditation, a kind of the kind favored by Dalai Lama increases an activity of telomeres and lengthens telomere. Okay.